tonight.
It's very scary.
Many of the people impacted by the devastating fires in California are Canadian. We hear from a former Regina resident who lost her home. Struggling with the brutality of her son's death, the mother of a Saskatoon homicide victim sits down with CBC. Why a survey says immigrants to the Prairies find their housing search more difficult than the national average.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, January the 9th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hi there, thank you for joining us. We begin in the United States, the world watching as the two largest wildfires burning outside Los Angeles remain at what officials call 0% contained. One did stop spreading, but conditions remain perilous. Steve Futterman reports.
With the Santa Ana winds less intense, fire crews went on the attack, going after the destructive fires both on the ground and from the air. Helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft spent the day dropping water and retardant on hotspots. On day 3, those who live in LA and surrounding areas were told the blunt reality of what they are facing. The recovery won't be easy.
Preliminary reports estimate the damage or destroyed structures to be in the thousands. It is safe to say that the Palisades fire is one of the most destructive natural disasters in the history of Los Angeles.
The Pacific Palisades area right here is probably the hardest hit. Just look at this, block after block, where homes once stood, basically nothing now exists. You may have heard about the gridlock that existed when people were trying to escape. There were so many people trying to leave that the road here, this is Sunset Boulevard, was just completely jammed. And as the fire approached, people simply abandoned their vehicles and left. These were burned, these others survived. Amidst the damage and destruction, 20 people have so far been arrested on suspicion of looting. Law enforcement officials say it will not be tolerated.
Our first choice isn't to do enforcement. It's not to make arrests. It's to help people. But if people choose to commit crimes, they're going to be held accountable.
And already there are people pointing fingers. LA Mayor Karen Bass being criticized by some for being in Ghana on Tuesday, attending the inauguration of that country's new leader.
When we are safe, when lives have been saved and homes have been saved, we will absolutely do an evaluation.
The fire crews may have tried to go on the offensive today, but the fires continue to burn and expand and destroy. While there was hope today for fire crews to try to get the upper hand, this brief respite in the winds may not last. The forecast calls for the winds to slightly increase over the next few days. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Pacific Palisades, California.
Many of the people impacted by devastating fires in California are Canadians. One of them is Nadia Williamson. She's originally from Regina and runs a dress shop here called NWL, and another in Santa Monica. She lost her home in the Pacific Palisades. Williamson says she's still numb from what has happened.
There's fires here often, so I wasn't taking it that seriously. I was at work in Santa Monica, and my next door neighbor texted me, and she was like, you know, we're going to evacuate. You should probably come back and take some things. And so I went back in no rush, and I just grabbed like the 2 cats and brought them back to my store in Santa Monica. And I didn't grab anything else. I didn't grab any clothes or passports or not one single thing, not a toothbrush. I just grabbed the cats, and then, you know, before I knew it, the whole entire Palisades was gone. Like everything is gone. All the elementary schools, high schools, stores, you know, thousands and thousands of homes that have been there for, you know, since the 1950s. I mean, it's common to have fires here, but not particularly in the lower level of the Palisades. My mind can't really process anything right now because we literally have nothing, you know, so yesterday we bought like a toothbrush, toothpaste. A lot of shops aren't open, you know, things aren't open. The smoke's really, really bad here. I don't know if you can see in the back. So, no one's going to work, obviously. But we did manage to find, a CVS that was open to buy like necessities. We were able to get into an Airbnb that's in Marina Del Rey. So we're there for the next 9 days. We don't really know what happens after that because we don't have a home. So we're just kind of playing it day by day. And it's almost like you're in survival mode and your brain doesn't really know what to do next. We're just kind of, we have a kit in our car just in case we have to leave, California, drive to Vegas or something. So we're a little bit prepared for that. We haven't been we didn't sleep last night. There's sirens and airplanes everywhere. It's really loud, all over LA. I mean, there's a lot of it's burning right now.
Also in the United States today, Washington's National Cathedral hosted the state funeral for former President Jimmy Carter. All 5 living presidents looked on as Carter's grandson spoke of his grandfather.
His spirit will live on in many ways for us. He'll be in the kitchen making pancakes, or in his wood shop finishing a cradle for a great-grandchild. Standing in a trout stream with Mom Carter. Or for me, just walking those Georgia fields and forests where he's from.
Imagine there's no heaven.
U.S. President Biden spoke of how he supported Carter in his presidential bid. Barack Obama chatted with seatmate Donald Trump, while the Carter family sat on the other side of the aisle. Prime Minister Trudeau attended as well. Carter's final resting place will be near his home in Plains, Georgia. The Canadian flag atop the Peace Tower flew at half-mast Wednesday in honor of Jimmy Carter. Flags at all federal government buildings also flew at half-mast until sundown, and flags at all Canadian missions in the United States will be at half-mast from now until sunset on January 27th. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau gave an interview to CNN after attending the funeral of Jimmy Carter. He was asked what his #1 piece of advice would be for his successor when it comes to dealing with the incoming president, Donald Trump.
Understand that the win-win is what we need. Making sure that everyone understands that we do better when we work together, that yes, the American president has a capacity to hurt the Canadian economy. There's no question about that. But anything an American president does to hurt the Canadian economy will also hurt American consumers, American workers, and American growth.
Trump has said he intends to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods after he retakes office later this month, unless Canada tightens border security, especially when it comes to fentanyl trafficking and illegal border crossings. Back here in Saskatchewan, we're learning more about Saskatoon's final homicide victim of 2024. The family of Tim Tatusis confirms the 30-year-old is the man murdered a week before Christmas. Priscilla Tatusis-Iron met with CBC's Dan Zakreski to talk about her son.
He rode in the hearse with Tim, and he sang all the way home.
Priscilla Tatusis-Iron's grief breaks when she talks about her son's friends and love of soccer.
This is one of his best friends. These 3 are the ones I drove around forever.
They all came to the Poundmaker First Nation to bury the 6'5" gentle giant who once anchored their back line.
And this is just another soccer shot. The boys, they honored him with such love, you know. There was different jerseys on top his casket.
Police found the body of Tim Tatusis in this West Side bungalow a week before Christmas. They had gone to the house on an unrelated matter. Priscilla says she's staying in close contact with major crimes investigators. She says she knows where her son was before he died and why he came to this house. And she knows the group responsible for his death. She says it's a tough pill to swallow.
Indigenous people killing Indigenous people? It just blows, how does that work? It blows my mind. And I pray for those people, those killers that killed my child, that someday they or their children or their grandchildren don't experience what my family and I are experiencing.
Police questioned and released 4 people who were inside the house. They've made no arrests. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A live look at the Battle of the Prairies football tournament in Moose Jaw. The tournament is held yearly at the Yara Center and features some of the best minor football players from North America. There's a game going on right now. Our Ethan Williams is there. He will join us with a look at your weather forecast when we come back. Stay with us. For the most part, newcomers say they are having a positive experience in Canada, but they also report we're facing unique challenges when it comes to housing. Alexander Silberman looks at this as part of Welcome to Canada, a CBC News series about immigration told by the newcomers themselves.
Wow, they have visitor parking.
Vineet and Diksha Jain arrived in Saskatoon from India last year with high hopes for a better life and began searching for a home.
This looks like really spacious.
Yeah, it's spacious
for now,
plus compact.
They saw rising rents, but being new to Canada was the biggest obstacle. With no credit history, references, or jobs, landlords kept saying no.
I was feeling like we should give up and maybe we should go back to our home country.
The long hunt for stable housing held up their path to getting settled in Canada and focusing on finding work in their fields. After 6 months of renting a room, they eventually found a place of their own.
There was always a tension back of our mind that we need to get into some good and bigger accommodation so that we can prioritize and plan our future.
The Jains are among many newcomers to Canada reporting challenges finding housing. In a survey conducted for CBC News, 8 in 10 newcomers say they've had a positive experience settling in Canada, but just more than half say they found a home that is affordable. The cost of rentals continues to grow across Canada, with most units still too expensive for the average renter. The country is rapidly building new apartments like these ones, and that's helping affordability with a record number of new rentals this year. But housing policy experts say construction is still lagging behind demand.
Supply just can't respond quickly enough.
This researcher says an influx of international students and temporary foreign workers created a rapid surge in demand for rentals.
People can get on a plane anywhere in the world this morning and arrive tonight. But we can't get a house on a production line this morning and have it ready for tonight. It takes us 5 or 6 years to get a housing built.
Others say it's a matter of too little housing and argue Canada can't afford to scale back immigration.
But simply saying that we're going to slow the population and therefore solve all of our problems, I think is actually very short-sighted and distracts us from the work that we need to do.
Welcome to our new home, Diksha.
The Jains are glad to finally have a place of their own, but they worry for other newcomers arriving in Canada and say some landlords and scammers are taking advantage of their situations. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatchewan RCMP answered hundreds of thousands of calls for service last year, and while many calls had officers rushing to help a person in need, others had them rolling their eyes. Laura Sharpaletti now with some ridiculous reasons people called 911.
Every year, Saskatchewan RCMP release a lighthearted list of 911 calls that missed the mark. The call center was very busy in 2024, receiving over 368,000 calls for service. Some were missed dials, some were false alarms, and others were very serious incidents. But some were just plain silly. In one instance, a cat owner called 911 because their cat was, quote, being mean to them. Another caller asked for help because a fox was scaring a neighborhood cat. And animal calls were just the tip of the iceberg. One person called for help with a math equation because they didn't want to fail their test. And another complained to the operator that they were being forced by their parents to clean their room. True story. Oh, and I'm not done yet. One caller reported trouble with their washing machine. Someone else complained that someone had thrown their ice cream on the ground. The RCMP says the annual silly 911 calls list is fun, but whether you're frustrated with your washing machine or suspicious of a fox, calling 911 must be reserved for emergencies and crimes in progress. These goofy calls could prevent someone from getting help in a serious emergency, and you could also be fined up to $2,000. So, if your tambourine gets swiped at a party, yes, another 911 call that made the RCMP list, find another way to catch the jingling bandit. Laura Sharpletti, CBC News, Regina.
And our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now from Moose Jaw. What a gorgeous day we had.
Gorgeous day. You can almost play football outside. Well, maybe not, but it was sure warm, and especially here in Moose Jaw, where we are at the Yara Center, where the Battle on the Prairies is taking place, hosted by the Sask Selects football program. We got players from Massachusetts, from California, from Texas, from Mexico. They're not exactly used to this Canadian winter weather that we have here, although it was a little bit better than it could have been for sure. But as we take a look now at our daytime high temperatures across the province, you'll see that we were above average in many locations, except for, well, actually, I should say that is including northern Saskatchewan, even though we did have a cold front starting to move through, which was dropping temperatures as we headed throughout Thursday. And a closer look at south and central shows we hit those daytime highs a little bit earlier in the day, as before that cold front kind of sliced through, and we managed to get pretty much near the freezing mark in many locations. But there is more winter weather on the way, I'm afraid. Starting tomorrow, low pressure system from Alberta begins moving in, and that'll bring some snow to northern Saskatchewan as we head through the morning hours. That will then move into south and central Saskatchewan as we get into the later afternoon hours, and around the supper hour on Friday, we start to see, I think it'll be mostly a snow event for places like Regina and Saskatoon and points eastward. And this snow could even be a little bit further west than what this model is showing here. But freezing rain, certainly a possibility in portions of west central and southwestern Saskatchewan through Friday. That bulk of that moisture starts to move out for Saturday, but we're left with some lingering snow showers as we head into Saturday morning, but until then, the afternoon, and then that starts to move out. Keep an eye, though, on the Cypress Hills. I think we actually could see that snow continuing there and maybe get even close to warning level criteria for snowfall before high pressure moves in Sunday. That'll clear the clouds, and that's coming from the north, so that's really going to be cooling us down. This, I think, is the best model that we can use for snowfall accumulation. On average, about 5 centimeters, maybe a little bit heavier closer to the Manitoba border, and of course in the Cypress Hills, maybe extending beyond 10 centimeters there. For northern Saskatchewan, I think we do have a path of maybe 10 to 12 centimeters from La Loche through the Cree and Key Lake areas and down to Pelican Narrows and even Cumberland House, maybe in that 5 to 10 centimeter range or so. Winds are not going to pick up all that dramatically, but again, with just a little bit of wind with this snow, we could start to see that blowing snow, but they've been quite breezy at times throughout Thursday, but those will start to subside Thursday night over into Friday before we get into Saturday. Quick look at our extended forecast shows that we are seeing that cool down come in after we see the snow on Sunday and Monday in Regina. And of course, the same situation for Saskatoon. We're looking at those snow flurries and then some colder temperatures, Sam. When stay tuned, we'll have an interview with the coach from the Mexican team here from Moose Jaw coming up in just a little bit.
Thanks, Ethan.
Poulin working in. Poulin hands off to Ambrose, and they hit traffic right in front of rebound. They score!
That's Canada's captain clutch, Marie-Philippe Poulin, with the sensational goal for Montreal. Let's have another look at that. Poulin playing the rebound from her knees, going top corner from the circle, all while sliding away from the net. Poulin added an empty netter from just a few strides over her own blue line to put away the win over Toronto. It was the first ever PWHL game in Vancouver. And sticking with sports, as Ethan said, when we come back, he'll join us with an interview from Battle of the Prairies football tournament in Moose Jaw. Stay with us.
Struggling to really gain possession of the puck and get themselves
Hi there, I'm Ethan Williams back here at the Yara Center in Moose Jaw for the Battle on the Prairies football tournament, and I'm joined by Jose Rangel, who is the team manager with the Monterrey Fuego, all the way from Monterrey, Mexico. Jose, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Ethan.
So how does a team from Mexico end up in a tournament here in Saskatchewan?
It's actually a nice story because we set up a private initiative with the players that we already met for some years now. Some of them played together or play from different teams and from our state of Nuevo León, which is in the northern part of Mexico. That's why we held Monterrey, because it's the capital of our state. Football is very popular in Mexico. And to be precise, we've been looking for opportunities for these guys to be seen around. So there's not a lot of opportunities or tournaments in Mexico that they can probably go and practice the sport against other teams. So when we got an invitation by Coach C, we were thrilled to put up this excellent group of young men to try, and the opportunity, the excitement of the sport, and try to match themselves up with other guys that there's a lot of excitement, because for some of these guys, they've never been out of Mexico. So they're thrilled, and we're very happy to be here. I mean, people are just awesome over here.
How are they dealing with the weather?
Well, the -20 is actually not very common in Mexico. I mean, we're used to certain cold weather, but not that extreme cold. So it's quite a challenge. So most of these kids never seen snow. So for them to, you need to buy specific kind of clothing, for example. It's quite a ride for them to.
But they look like they're having a good time.
Yeah, they're having the time of their lives. I mean, they're pretty excited to be here. They wanted to match up these guys, and I mean, they're just having a blast of time.
Great. Jose, thank you so much for being here, and best of luck in the tournament.
Thank you, Ethan.
That is Jose Rangel, who is the team manager with the Monterrey Fuego football team, playing here at the Yara Center in Moose Jaw for the Battle on the Prairies, organized by the Sask Selects football program. They'll be playing until Sunday, and I think they'll be having a little more winter weather to deal with, Sam, in the coming days with that snowfall coming in.
I mean, if they're going to be in Saskatchewan, they should get the full Saskatchewan experience. All right. Thanks, Ethan, and thanks to Jose for that interview. That is it from us. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. You can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.